If a third world war happens, it will never be the way you imagine it. According to many people, the conflict between Israel and Iran will be the war that triggers World War III. Of course, only time will tell. But in today's video, I will talk about how the war might begin, how countries are preparing for this expected war with new technologies, and how it might come to an end. I'm sure you'll be very surprised by what you're about to hear. To understand the future, we must first follow the clues of the past. First came World War I, then World War II, and then our present day. It has been exactly 80 years since the last Great War. But have you ever thought about this? Why do countries risk everything and go to war? There are many reasons why world wars break out, but the most important one is that major powers want to redistribute the world. In other words, greed. Yes, we are talking about world wars, but these wars never began on a global scale. They always started regionally. For example, World War I began with an assassination. It was a small crisis in the Balkans, but then Austria declared war on Serbia. Russia supported Serbia, Germany declared war on Russia, and soon France, England, the Ottoman Empire, and Japan were involved. The whole world was dragged into it. The same happened in World War II. Germany's invasion of Poland initially seemed like a regional occupation, but with England and France opposing Germany, then Russia, Japan, and finally the United States joining in, it turned into a world war. The issue was never just land. Raw materials, energy routes, and strategic regions were at stake. Those who wanted to control the world were willing to sacrifice millions for this cause. 20 million people died in World War I, and nearly 70 million lost their lives in World War II. What ended World War II was a new technology, the atomic bomb. By using this terrifying weapon, the United States frightened all other nations and ended the war by proving it was a superpower. The force that ended the last World War, the atomic bomb, will likely be used to start World War III. But this time, the situation is different. Atomic bombs are no longer possessed only by the United States. Many countries now have this power. So, if World War III breaks out, just like in World War II, the side that possesses the technology that can end the war will become the new superpower of the world. But is that technology more advanced nuclear weapons? No. The answer is no longer atomic bombs. In the future, the factor that will determine the winner of a war will be technological superiority in space. World War III truly will not be what you expect. Today, many satellites communicate with one another, send signals, serve multiple purposes, guide ships and aircraft, contribute to science, provide internet and communication, and allow us to study Earth's geography, seismic activity, and weather events. In other words, they are used for vital purposes for humanity. But they are also used to detect a country's secret bases. In fact, from the very beginning, the primary reason for launching satellites into space has always been war. At the start of the Cold War, although satellite launches appeared scientific, the real reason was surveillance. After the United States won the space race and the Soviet Union collapsed, space projects were largely shelved because there was no longer a major threat. They were also extremely expensive. But today, costs have decreased, and work has already begun again. So much so that in 2019, the United States established a new military branch called the United States Space Force, officially defining space as a battlefield. 5 years ago, in 2020, there were about 3,000 satellites orbiting our planet. Today, that number has reached astonishing levels. Countries no longer have secrets. everything can be seen by satellites, whether it's Russia secretly sending troops to Ukraine or the United States building a military base on a tiny island. Even North Korea, which appears closed off from the world, can be observed in detail through satellites. According to a Reuters report, Elon Musk's SpaceX is building a network of hundreds of spy satellites under a secret agreement with the U.S. government. You've probably seen Barish Özkan's enthusiastic live streams celebrating each launch. Of course, that excitement is for space science and humanity, but unfortunately, behind the scenes, plans far beyond scientific research are being made. This satellite orbits the Earth at a speed of 7.5 kilometers per second, approximately 400 kilometers above the surface. There is a reason for this altitude. Without using any explosives, this satellite can simply drop a metal rod toward Earth. Its name is the Rods of God. It is a theoretical kinetic weapon system. As the metal rod falls from space, it accelerates to 8 times the speed of sound. When it hits the ground, it creates a devastating impact, capable of penetrating even underground bunkers. It is called God's rod because the strike is perceived as an invisible, divine blow from the sky, nearly invisible and impossible to defend against. Another weapon system is a drone army hidden inside a capsule. Hundreds or even thousands of drones can be released from the capsule to attack a specific target. In another system, dozens of satellites are equipped with destructive missiles capable of destroying not only targets on Earth, but also enemy satellites. There are also systems that do not rely on explosions or physical destruction. For example, jamming, a system that interferes with the signals between a satellite and its ground station, completely cutting off communication. No messages or signals can be sent. It is a form of attack without weapons. Another method is spoofing. In this case, the satellite is directly controlled via the ground station, either taken over or used for a different purpose. Then there are lasers, which can disable satellites either temporarily or permanently. Finally, there are cyber attacks. Hacking, the most commonly used form of attack today. Those who succeed can manipulate satellites, steal data, control them, or render them unusable. As I said, these do not use explosives. These are invisible weapons. It is believed that the United States, China, and Russia are working on these systems and have even quietly put some of them into operation. Of course, all officially deny it. But as always, the U.S. subtly reminds the world that we could do it if we wanted to. Countries are secretly making moves above our heads, in orbit. Remember when President Trump took office and Elon Musk was frequently by his side? Guess what the agenda was? America's massive Golden Dome. This was not an ordinary project. According to some, Elon Musk's rocket technology and the Starlink network were not developed solely for internet or research purposes, but also to complete the Golden Dome. Because the U.S. knew that if World War III broke out, not only tanks, planes, and missiles would be used, but also space-based weapon technologies. The wars of the future will begin on Earth and end in the sky. The victors of these wars will first dominate space, then intelligence, because in the future, it will not be land that is conquered, but information.